Hey everybody. So, I as soon as I saw uh, the NESMaker, I wanted to go for it. This to me was right up my alley. For the very few of you who subscribe to my channel, I love this kind of stuff. I have two projects from different uh, platforms that are still unfinished, but I just love this whole process. So I bought my license, and what I'm gonna do is I see on their website. If I can minimize this for a second here. All right, go. Let's do new. Let's look at this welcoming screen for a second here. Please use NESMaker for original IPs only. That means we are not going to be, you know, uh, ripping Mario and Zelda and so forth. Although we can, that's not the intent of what the NESMaker is about. It's about being able to come up with your own original ideas. In the world of coding and programming, you can certainly borrow bits and pieces, but only as a means to come up with what the final product is going to be. That's just basic coding 101. That'll be my other dog, Woody, there, who's causing ruckus. That said, what we're going to do is I'm going to select New Project. I'm going to go ahead and just hit cancel on this for now. Minimize this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in the first video. They have a series of other videos here. And what we are looking at, the tutorials that we're looking at is maze game, arcade platformer, scrolling shooter, adventure game, scrolling platformer, and Mega Metrovania, and a beat 'em up brawler. And as you can see, there are 3 levels for each one. There's beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And I'm going to assume that I know absolutely nothing about the system, so I'm going to work my way up. Beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So if you can think of it in terms of college courses, 100, 200, 300, I guess. So going with the most sensible thing, let's go with beginner. Maze Games 101. So let's start with that. And so my plan here is to go through our videos, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause at certain places and put in my input, because my background is in computer science programming, and it's what I do for a living, basically. So I can offer my insight as opposed to just having a straight play through the video. One moment. Guys, stop. Alright. You two want to have a treat, don't you? I'm probably going to need to close the door. There we are. Isn't live TV something, huh? Well, live video feed. Anyway, so because I'm going to treat it just like a course, notebook and graph paper, because I know at some point it's going to come up. So let's attend our first lecture here.
Once you've opened NESMaker, click on New Project. We're going to choose the Create Blank Tile Sets option, and we're going to give the folder for our graphics a name. My suggestion is something like Maze Tutorial _practice.
All right, so let's go ahead and do that. All right. Actually, I could probably do that on my own time. Let's just review the video here. So basically, starting from scratch, that makes sense.
You can use camel case or underscores instead of space, but don't use any special characters. Try and keep it all alphanumeric. And for our starting module, we want to choose Maze Base 456. Once we have that loaded, hit OK. And that's going to load our project with all of the scripts and settings that we need for this particular.
Okay, so what it looks like they've done is did they now create blank tile sets, folder name. All right. Yeah, I see what they did. These are like blank templates. So this reminds me of when I start a new game with, say, my Sierra SCI companion. They start you off with a blank template of whatever it is. So basically, all your helpers, your tools, your tile sets, and so forth, they're going to be preset for you. In this case, preset blank. So that makes absolute sense. It's very helpful that they're doing that they have those templates and helpers made available for you instead of having to do it from scratch, which you can do. That's no problem. You can absolutely do.
Particular type of game that we're going to create. The first thing that we'll do from there is we're going to load in pre-existing tile sets for graphics that we've already created for this project. So go to the little gear bar at the top of the screen. This is your project settings. And go to the tile sets.
Once again, this reminds me so much of the SCI. So this seems to be how they sort of line up their assets like that. Tiles, script settings, user variables. This is definitely a great way to sort of to bring you into the whole world of programming, let alone NES programming, though, but any kind of emulation, especially on these modern machines.
Tab. There you're going to see a button that says Import. You can use this to import existing tile set assets that you've exported from another project. It's going to give you a warning that this is going to overwrite all tile sets that are currently in use. Yes, for sure. We've created a folder you should have downloaded from where you got this module. I've downloaded mine to the desktop, and it's called Maze Tutorial Resources. And you'll see one of the zip files is called Maze Tutorial Tile Sets. Click on that and press.
I had a look at the tile set zip package, and I was pleased to discover that those you can make through say Microsoft Paint or GIMP or whatever program that you have. So this confirms something for me, is that the tile sets and backgrounds and other kind of sprites, those are going to be kind of like your bottleneck. That's going to take up a lot of time, at least as far as creating them. I'm not sure if the intermediate and advanced courses are going to talk more about how to do that programmatically. But from my experience so far, doing the graphics assets, that takes a long time. That requires a lot of patience.
It's open, and it has now loaded those tile sets into this project. Close this window. Now we'll move over to our project hierarchy, which is this white space on the left side of the tool. And we're going to click on the plus sign next to the project node. Now we can see all of the tools and resources that make up this current project. I'm going to right click on game objects, and I'm going to import all game objects.
Okay. Once again here, this looks like they're using an internal tool to create these sprites, which is also handy because you have, pretty sure, an internal palette of some set defined colors instead of having to guess, so that's good.
You'll see in that same folder that there's a zip file called maze tutorial gameobjects.zip. Click on that and hit open. If you hit the plus sign next to game object right now, you'll see that a player has loaded in. It's showing the wrong colors, but we'll deal with that in a second. Open up the node for palettes. You can see that you've got palette groups and all of your tile palettes. Right-click on all palettes, and you'll see an import button. You'll see one of these zip files is called maze tutorial _ palettes. Not the monster palettes, but palettes. Click on that and press open. And if you open that node, you'll now see that the top 2 palettes are loaded with data.
Okay, so that's important. A palette will tell you all the colors that your game is going to need. Keeps it nice and tight. That also tells me that these palettes are also customizable. That's going to be useful.
If I click on one of them, you can see the colors that are associated.
Okay, so we're looking at 4x4, so 16. Makes sense for an 8-bit machine. So we've got day palette and night palette. So basically, if you're gonna, my assumption is if you're doing this from an advanced point of view, you're really working from the ground up. You're going to be spending a lot of time on this. Yeah, the graphics assets are going to take a while. This is why for developing any games, even for NES, that requires a team of people. So if you're doing this on your own, you really need a lot of patience. You really need a lot of patience. And discipline. You're not going to hammer out a game a day. I can guarantee you that. A working man like myself who works between 40 and 60 hours a week, who does this as a hobby, if you're going to want to make and complete a game, you need to be disciplined. You need to have discipline.
With that palette. Click on the second one. You can see the colors that are associated with that palette. To close these nodes, you can click on the minus sign. Now we're going to open the Monster Graphics Banks. Click on the plus sign next to the Monster Graphic Banks node. Click on the plus sign next to the Graphics Bank 0 node. Right-click on Monsters. We are going to import all monsters. You see we've got Maze Tutorial _ monsters. Go ahead and open that. If we click on the node, we'll see that we have an alien. Again, it's the wrong color, but we're going to take care of that right now. You can minimize the Monster Graphic Banks node. Open up the Monster Palettes node. You can see it says All Monster Palettes. Right-click on that and import. And we're going to import Maze Game Tutorial Monster Palettes.zip. If we look...
Now, that's interesting that they're choosing to import by use of zips and having the program read from that, which also tells me that when we get to more into the advanced stages, that you will have to create each and every single one of those zip packages, or not. I don't know how this is designed, but certainly a neat way of organizing it. Let's look at something here. What I'm curious about. Oh, geez. Okay. So what I want to look at is going to palettes. Interesting. So these are all text files. Oh, I like it. So this is the first one that he imported. So I can certainly see how these numbers correspond to a color. It's very clean. And if we go to, let's look at monsters. I'm curious about that. Let's just use plain old Notepad. Oh, that's fascinating. Okay. So that's problem created internally. All right. Let's get back to the video.
At those palettes, we'll see that it has 3 palettes defined at the top. One called Player Pal 0, one called Player Pal 1, and one called Alien Palette. Now, if you were to go back and look at either your game object for your player or your monster palette for your alien and open it up, you'll see that it reflects the new palettes that we've drawn in.
Okay. What I'm noticing here is the same thing that I noticed with my Sierra. Okay, sprites are definitely going to take a lot of time. I'll tell you why. This is why you should invest in some graph paper here. And I'd say just look around you. Can't believe I just said that, though, but it is absolutely true. Looks like you have 4 colors. The point I'm getting at is if you're designing like a character like Mario or Zelda, or even like someone say Pac-Man or Donkey Kong or something like that, you need to reduce everything into these to that. I'm not sure how big these sprites are, but this is where you're going to see a lot of work. So I would say if you see a person or like, how's this for an example? You know the mushrooms and all that in Mario? Take your graph paper, look at a mushroom, and block it out. You because you're working with blocks basically. So if you're going to do a fireman, figure out how to draw something that you can recognize as a fireman. If you want to draw a Yogi Bear, you're going to need to figure out how to do that. Sprites, I can say, will take up. See, for one, I would say probably 2 days. And when I mean day, I mean like say, oh, maybe somewhere. Well, do I want to say 2 days? Maybe half a day. And I'm talking about like 4 hours. That's basically looking for your design, putting it down, and then looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got 8, 4 by 8, and so you need to figure out animation as well. How is your character going to move? You're going to have to study and figure that out. You're going to have to figure out the look. It gives you an animation preview, so make use of that as well. So part of doing this is being able to have an artistic eye, and and but for this beginner portion right now, I'd say they're giving you the pieces. Don't worry about that. Just know what you're in for when you move ahead. But start sketching now. When you find objects, when you look at other people, have a sketchbook. Preferably, as I say, something with graph notebook. Take pictures and block it out. Create your own characters. That's going to be key right there. And do a lot of it. Do a lot of drawings. Do a lot of pixel characters and so forth. Get as many ideas as you can down, because you're going to need to put that all into your game.
Instead of the ones that it was showing. Next, we're going to load in the sound file. This is not bundled with this project, but it's loaded with this version of NESMaker. So to find it, we're going to right-click on Sound, import FamiTracker.txt, and we're going to navigate to wherever your NESMaker folder is. Then we're going to navigate to Tutorial Assets, 4.5.x Beta Tutorials, Sound, and you'll see a text file. This is some
Look at that. Look at that. Sound. That's all. It's going to take a lot of time. My suggestion for this is when it comes to putting in sound, and you're going to have to think long term for this. is unless you're a musician or you know a friend who's musicians and you really want to do this on your own, start looking at I'd say public domain MIDI files, or better still, look for sheet music that you can get off of public domain, and either use that as your as the base of your game, or since you're not selling it, hopefully, to anybody, and if you really want to put something in there that's copyrighted, go for it, but just be aware. Um, but look for sheet music. I think that's going to help you.
Default songs and sound effects that were provided by the NESMaker community for this release. Hit open, and now they're part of your project. Next, we're going to add some inputs. If we go to the input editor, and we go up to the input linker menu, we can import input links. Now, right now, we're in that tutorial assets folder, so we have to return back to our maze game folder. For me, that's on my desktop. Maze tutorial resources, maze tutorial inputs. And what that has done is it is loaded in. If I press the plus sign next to the scripts node, press the plus sign next to the input scripts node, it has loaded a handful of scripts that make this maze game function.
Okay, so that's neat. If you think further ahead, you have noticed with the NESMaker that you have an option to physically copy this onto a NES cartridge. You got to think really, really long term about that, especially if you're doing it on your own. Once again, this is why this is done in teams, so that you have one person working on sprites, you got one person working on backgrounds, you got one person working on logic. Of course, you need one person working on sound, and so if you want to do this on your own, that's fine. Just be aware of all this work that's going into it. I think probably the most satisfying part is once it's all said and done, once it all works, and you finally make your NES cartridge, it's going to be the most satisfying thing ever. That said, it's kind of neat that you can map the NES joystick like this, so you can work on it during your development stages.
And it is applied then to different inputs on the controller. We've now loaded in all of the assets that we need to load in to start making this game work. So let's open up our overworld node. Here you'll see map screens. Now don't really think about this literally as an overworld and an underworld. What you have is two different maps, and you can use them however you want to use them. You don't have to make the starting screen 0, 0. It doesn't have to be an overworld and a dungeon type scenario at all. In fact, you could use one map completely for special screens or cutscene data, and the other for gameplay. For us, we're just going to pick an arbitrary screen. I'm just going to pick this one here, which is, if I look up at the top of the screen, 3, 3, 3 in the X direction, 3 in the Y direction. You can choose any screen that you'd like. And you'll see I'm now in a...
I like how that's organized. So you don't have to do it in sequential order. That's just great. That's fascinating. So it looks like you have your tile set here. This is your screen here that you're going to be working on. Those are your pellets. This is good.
In a interface that shows me what the screen is going to look like. It also shows me my tile set. It shows me my palettes. It shows me any tiles that I've loaded, which I haven't for this project. it shows me the collision data that's available to me in this module so far. It's got a few windows that will turn this into a slightly different view for me to see different things. For instance, collision data on the screen.
Oh, okay.
If I ever want to go back to the map, I can click on Overworld. I can get back to that screen by double-clicking on it. If I have my mouse hovered over that and I press the plus sign, I can zoom out, which will allow me to see other screens adjacent to the screen if I've created some. If I hit minus, it'll zoom back in, and it'll hide those screens, and I'll just see an outline of them. You'll see this better once we create multiple screens.
All right. I want to know how that works, so I guess we'll wait for that. That's something, isn't it?
We can use a lot of these drop-down menus to choose different options. For instance, I can go to Palette, and I can choose to load a different palette than this screen would use for the background tiles.
Do you see how changing the palette changes the tiles as well? If you do it right, you can make any kind of game you want using as few palettes as possible. That's interesting.
Stay with palette 0. I can also go to tile layout, and I can choose different tile sets and different tile.
That's nice. That's nice. So if you look at your tiles, okay. So I'm not sure what all this means quite yet. Whether or not you're restricted to creating as few tiles as possible, because you are looking at limited memory on an NES card. How this all goes together, I don't know, but that is a practice in efficiency, certainly.
Tile set layouts. For this type of game, this tile layout is going to be just fine. I'll press OK. When I choose a different sub-palette, you'll see that my tile set here changes colors.
I pointed that out, yeah.
In order to place tiles onto the screen, I'll choose the sub-palette that I want to use. If I want to place a single tile, I can grab a single tile. You can see that it's highlighted here. My cursor then shows that tile, and I can place it by clicking. If I want to place multiple tiles at one time, I go to my tile set, I hold Shift, click and drag, and you'll see my cursor shows multiple tiles.
Okay,
I'm going to create a row of skee ball. We are creating a 8-bit arcade for our player to run around in. I'm going to leave a space around.
Okay, that's nice. I see what they did there. Yeah, that is nice, isn't it?
On the outside for now, and we'll show you why in a second. Now I'm going to add a few arcade cabinets. I can hit escape while my mouse is over this canvas area, and you can see that the cursor goes away. The ghosted image of the cursor goes away. So now I can select a different set of tiles, and I'm going to place the arcade games along the top. However, I do have this modified bit, which will give it just a little bit more diversity, and I can start changing the colors. Now, I probably want to keep.
Okay, work on these tiles. I bet you can imagine how long it would have taken to create these tiles. For right now, what he's showing us is how we can take the assets that he has created and just changing it up. We can create a game. So it's basically for right now for Maze Game 101. What are we looking at? We are looking at um, oh, taking puzzle pieces out of the box. I think when we get to Maze Games 301 or 201, 301, it's going to be more like how are you going to create those puzzle pieces. But for right now, um, uh, we can take the tile sets that they give us and create our own maze. In fact, that's going to be homework for me is to create my own maze. Because I think that's going to be the most fair.
Keep all of the skee ball machines looking the same. However, these arcade cabinets should look different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to choose, I can choose this, and one way that I could do it is I could choose a sub palette and grab one of the tiles and replace it. But if all I'm doing is changing the color, there's an easier way.
Okay, I like that he did that. So that tells me each one of these sectors here can have its own palette set of 4. That's clever. Where did I see this before? I think something. What was it? Like the Pet? Not the Pet. The VIC 20. Something like the VIC 20 or the Commodore 64. One of those two machines, you can change like a sector from where you can display all these colors, but each sector can only have 4 colors. Gives you a little bit more variety. That's cool.
I'll hit escape so it gets rid of the ghosted image. If I move my mouse over a tile that I want to change, my Q, W, E, and R keys will change the subpalettes. Q, W, E, and R. So for instance, if I wanted to use subpalette 4 for this monitor, I can put my mouse over the tile that I want to change, press the R key, and it changes to that palette. If I want to make this whole cabinet right here subpalette 3, I press the E, I hold the E key, and it paints that entire tile. So I can go through and I can mix and match to give this a little bit of diversity. And now that just looks a little bit more interesting. Next, we're going to add some paths. In order to add paths, I'm going to go to All Graphics over in my hierarchy. I'm going to press the plus sign. I'm going to go to Path Info. When we loaded the tile sets, we already loaded up 2 looking paths.
Okay, once again, imagine how much time it must have taken to create all of this. Because that's what you're looking at when you get into the more advanced stages of creating something like this is you're going to be spending a lot of time on these tiles. So for the NESMaker, your bottleneck, if you're doing original games of your own, the bottleneck will be doing these tiles. That's going to take up a lot of your time. Not to scare anybody away, of course, but just to be aware.
One that kind of looks like a solid wall, one that kind of looks like water. These came stock with this module. I don't have to do anything here. I could give it a collision type, but for right now, I'm just going to call it paths because we're going to manually paint collisions. So I'm going to give this a name, call it paths, and hit save. Now, if I go back to my overworld and I click on that screen, I'm going to tell this to use those paths by going to...
Did you see that? Let's back up here a little bit. So you definitely have a lot of freedom to create as many overworld and underworld screens as you can. That's quite a lot. That just really emphasizes what I'm trying to say here is that you're going to be spending a lot of time doing this, and you really need to have the patience. You really need to be able to sit down each night and just do this. This is work. This is work. Don't let anybody else fool you. It's fun, but you have to be disciplined, and you got to sit through it from the beginning right to the end in order to do this. You got to have your discipline.
I'm going to tell this to use those paths by going to Screen Info, which is the button at the top of the screen. And you'll see right in the middle, it says Path Group. Right now it's set to nothing. We want to tell it that we want it to use paths on the screen. I'll hit OK. Now, when I place my mouse and I use the 1, 2, 3, or 4 key, it will start drawing paths. If I look at my tile layout, this row would be path 1, this row would be path 2, this row would be path 3, and this row would be path 4. And it would draw based on the correlating button that you pressed. If you press 1, it's going to draw the solid wall path.
Okay, so do you see that? These are tiles, these are your paths.
If I press 2, it'll draw this either water or path, dirt path. Now notice, this is only good for tile set layouts that have path at the end of it. You can see some of them have no path. This one has a path, this one does not. This one does not. This one has half a path. These specifically have no path. This specifically has half a path but no HUD. So there are different types of layouts. With the one that we're using, we can use 1, 2, 3, and 4 to draw any of these paths. So I'm going to draw a wall by pressing 1 along the outside. So I'm clicking and dragging. Oops. If you happen to go off the screen, it will automatically place something at position 0. I'm attempting to use a trackpad, which is slowing me down a little bit. I'm going to get rid of these mistakes by just clicking on the top left tile and placing it in place. Now I can start adding a few arcade machines. So I'll add these 2 right here, and maybe I'll add another one right here. But I can see that I want to change that one to this stacked version. And I'll do the same thing across from it. This just gives it some symmetry. Now I'm going to add a few arcade cabinets, but instead of just drawing it, I'm going to...
Okay, so you see how he's just creating a screen with those few assets right there. This is where simple equals powerful. This is some good stuff.
Show you how to copy and paste tiles. So I'm going to hit escape so that no tiles are selected. Now I'm going to hold shift, click and drag over a few arcade cabinets. You can see it puts this white rectangle around them. If I hit Control C, the white rectangle goes away and it's copied to my clipboard. So I can hit Control V to paste those in place.
It would be tempting to recreate Pac-Man using just this. In fact, could be another assignment. I would say a better assignment would be to recreate Pac-Man, but create a different maze and to be as inventive as you can with it. In fact, that would be a good exercise right there. Can you create the game Pac-Man that does not look like the Pac-Man that we all know and love, but something that's entirely your own creation? It almost sounds like a midterm project there, doesn't it?
I may want to put a few arcade cabinets along the wall. Like that. And now we have something that's starting to resemble a small arcade. There are a few things left that we want to add to this screen. One of them is our pickup, our collectible, which is going to be quarters. You're going to be collecting the quarters scattered around the arcade and staying away from evil aliens. So this doesn't look much like a quarter unless I make it silver. So I'm going to grab the quarter graphic and I'm going to place quarters randomly around the room. The other thing I've really got to think about is, where is the exit point to this room? So, and where is my character going to start? So if I imagine this to be where my character is going to start, and maybe up here is where my exit is, what I'll do is I have to figure out a tile to use for an exit tile. I'm just going to use this gray tile. So whenever I see that gray tile, I know it's going to be an exit. You might want to use stairs or a door, and that would be fine. But there you go. So we're going to use that as our exit. And then,
okay, so I think looks like assignment 1, if I were to make an assignment, construct a maze and make an exit tile. In fact, let me write that down. Using only the tile set given, there we go, using only the tile set given, create your own maze. Number 1. Number 2, create an exit tile. Okay.
the next thing we want to do is we want to place our character somewhere on this screen. So if I right-click somewhere, I can place my player, and we can see he showed up. Now he is showing slightly the wrong colors, and we'll fix that in one of the next steps. But what's great is now we actually have enough in here that this should work. I should be able to play this game, move my character around the screen. I have not set up any collision data yet, so I'll be able to walk right through walls, but we can test it to see if my inputs work, my game objects.
Always test, test, and test. Absolutely. What you want to do here is, test with absolutely nothing added in. Like, just have your map, make sure your map looks fine, because you can adjust whatever it is you need to adjust before you start adding in stuff such as collision. Always test.
Work, and if all my palettes and tiles load correctly. To test my project, I'm going to go to the top of the screen. There's a little button that says Export and Test. I'm going to click on that. It looks like a little closed NES. And that's going to run it in the assembler. That's going to assemble all the data and all the things that I put together. And it's going to turn it into a playable ROM file. Press the key and it's going to open it in the Messing emulator, which comes bundled with NESMaker. And I can see everything loaded pretty well. I can move. As I said, I haven't set up any collisions, so I'll be able to walk right through. And in Pac-Man fashion, if I go off the side of one of the screen, I show up on the other. If I go off the side of the screen, I show up on the other. We haven't told it what to do to stay in balance, and we haven't told it what is solid, what's...
You know, it's so cool and it's so satisfying once you get everything set up. It'd be like, wow, I created my first NES ROM. So uh, that for me is just really satisfying once you get to this first step of creating your own maze, creating your exit tile, and so forth, and then playing it, even though it's a shit game right now, you realize, okay, as it's going to get go along, things can get better and better, but we all need a place to start. So, absolutely.
Collectible, and what should warp us to another screen. So we'll do a few things more. The first thing is I want to add a HUD, and I want to start adding collision data. Since I have the overworld screen painter open, we'll start with collisions. What I have here is the different types of collision data that this module uses: walkable, solid, a hurt tile, a warp tile, a checkpoint, and a prize tile. So we're going to start adding these to the screen. First and foremost, we're going to add solid tiles. So I'm going to choose under this collision dropdown where it says solid. When we chose the module, that's what loaded in the script.
Okay. So when I was creating my excuse me, when I was creating my Forgotten Realms adventure game toolkit, that's what I do here, or do there as well, is to define what these tiles are. Again, I think there it's like solid door, hidden door, and all that. So it's nice to see that some ideas are crossing over here and there, which makes this good. So basically, yeah, absolutely make use of those
Scripts that work with these tile types. In order to add solid properties to a tile, I move over that tile. You can see its properties up here at the top of the screen. Right now, it's loaded as a walkable tile. So, in order to change that, I'm going to hit the 0 key, and it changes to solid, you can see.
Yeah, I see it.
So I can go ahead and click and drag and change all these to solid. However, there's an easier way to make sure I get all of them. If I turn on this collision toggle, I can actually see the value of.
Okay, so this goes back to the adventure game tool, not adventure game toolkit, the CR game SCI companion, where you can look at the layers. Here it's using numbers with SCI companion. It was using graphic layers. Like the first layer is your background, which does take a long time. Your second layer is your collision, and your third layer defines which area you're in. So, like if you're in a specific area, something like this happens. That's way beyond this. The point is, here they're using numerical representations for collision, which is abstract, but oh, I see. If you can look carefully here, these numbers are placed over a darkened field. So you won't have to guess, like with SCI Companion. Well, no, you can do it there too. This is just another way of implementing it, but it is exactly the same idea.
Of all these tiles. And now I can draw solid wherever I want a solid wall to be.
That's nice.
This is a quick and easy way to add exactly the right collision data to exactly the right tiles. So all of these tiles should be 1s. And that will keep me constrained within those tiles. There are other types of tiles that we're going to add. Missed this one. There are other types of tiles that we're going to add, but let's test that to see if now I collide with those solid tiles, and it stops me. And it does. I must have missed a few. So let me check. If I go back to my collision, I can see that I missed these two right here. So I'll make sure it's on solid. And I'll grab those two. Next, I want to go and I want to make all...
Now, as you can guess, if you want to put in, say, hidden doorways or something, hidden pathways or something like that, there's nothing stopping you. You just need to figure out how to go about. Well, there's nothing stopping you. I think that's going to go into some more complicated territory, but I think for now, defining your walls and objects with this simple tool of just painting your collision objects, that's great. That's super.
all of the quarters prizes. So I'm going to choose prize, and over everything that I want to disappear and give me a score value, I'm going to click on. Now, when I say disappear...
Okay, so if I didn't have that tool with me, I would have to write down what value 1 is, what value 5 is, what value 0 is. How they're doing it here is wonderful.
What it's really going to do is it's going to turn it into a default tile, the 0, 0 tile. This one, that's what this script will do. So it's not actually disappearing, it's turning it into the floor tile and giving it the same properties as the floor tile. So now that I've got that loaded in, I should be able to start collecting the tiles. Check that one tile down here, and it looks like, yes, I did miss that one. There you go. Okay, so now we've added that. We're also going to very soon add a warp tile to take us to the next screen. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to HUD and Boxes, and I'm going to add some HUD elements. The first thing that I'm going to add...
Okay, so that would be the header up here. You know, in what's interesting for games like Super Mario 2 and other games where they have done away with the HUD and actually made that part of the game, I think that's going to be further in advance. For now, let's just keep things simple.
Add is text that says lives. And then I can move X and Y around the screen until I get the word lives wherever I want it.
Okay.
The next thing I'm going to do is add the value of a variable. I'm going to add a number, and it's going to use the variable my lives. Keep in mind that you have to have correct capitalization. This is a variable that came with this particular module.
Okay, so my understanding from this is this connects a variable to some code, which means the code is going to be the next, it's either going to be Maze 201 or Maze 301. It's going to, so there is a connection between the HUD elements variables to some code somewhere. So for now, in this assignment that I'm giving myself, leave the elements or leave the variables alone. Keep it simple.
It doesn't exist in all modules, but it does in this one. It has a max value of 1. That just means it has one place value. It can be 0 through 9. And I'm going to move that into place. Element number 2 in this module is going to be text, and it's going to say the word score. And then I can move that into the place where I want the score to be. And element number 3 is going to be another number represented by...
Okay, so notice here too, that we're going, let me see. 0, 0 is going to be your top leftmost, upper leftmost, which makes sense. So this is 0, 0. So if that may take some getting used to. So if something doesn't make sense, maybe because that you have, no, we're so used to having it the other way around, where 0, 0 would be the bottom rightmost, and it'd be like, hey, why does my text look right? Well, it could be that that you have the numbers, you know, your x and y, your coordinates are not adjusting the way you would think them. So it just takes some getting used to. Upper leftmost. What's nice about this is you don't really need to think about that. You can change your x and y values, and it'll show you what it's going to look like.
My score. Again, spelling is important. Max value is going to be 6.
Okay, so spelling is important. I wonder about because he deliberately capitalized the S, which makes me think that capitalization is also important too.
It doesn't mean that it's got a maximum value in it of 6. It means it's got 6 places. This module has a score that is good up to 6 places. Other ones are 4, 8. They could be anywhere between 0 and 8 places. This particular module uses 6 places. Now when I play my game, I start the game with 3 lives, score of 0, and as I collect these quarters, you can see my score go up. Lastly, let's add some monsters, and it will walk through another screen. So, I'm going to go...
See how fun that looks? And what I appreciate here is that this gets your feet wet, and it gives you that satisfying feeling of you actually are creating something that is your own. And I really have to say it again. On this first assignment, create your own maze, create your exit tile. Everything else is done for you. Don't worry about being original. Not right now. The only thing you need to be original of is your exit tile, and your maze you can create. You can use different palettes or something like that. But for now, I'd say unless you really want to spend some time in altering your main character, just use the one that he has. I would say create a new character if you want to do some extra, if you want to earn some bonus points there. But, for this, I'd say this can take, let's say, neighborhood of between 1 or 2 hours, and you can create not a wholly original game, but your first one, and that's going to be very satisfying and should get you in the mood to go even deeper.
To my screen. I need to add a monster.
Oh, doesn't that look great? So this little icon that was up here is now here. So I'm assuming this little icon tells you where the main character starts. And the warp, I'm going to assume, would mean um, any one of these screens your character can go to, but this is your starting screen. That's what I'm assuming for right now. But that just looks so satisfying.
Group. In order to do that, I'm going to go to Monster Graphics Banks. I'm going to go to Graphic Bank 0 if it's not open already. And I'm going to click on Monster Groups. Here is where I'm going to choose the monsters I want in this monster group. This module only has one monster. So I'm going to call this Alien, and I'm going to hit save. And now you'll notice that I have a little plus sign, and I can see that I've got a monster group for Alien. If I go to my overworld, and I go to that screen, to be able to add that, I need to tell the screen what object it is able to load. So I go to Screen Info. We're only dealing with the day normal state. So I'm going to go to Day Monsters.
Okay, so there's probably a different set of rules for changing the state from day to night. So there's, let's see, so he hasn't touched about states at all. So in this assignment, I guess we're going to stick with just the one state. So it looks to me like placement is important, and placement's a thing. I want to see how this monsters work.
And this is where I'm going to set my monster types that can be on the screen. And I'm going to set my palettes. Our hero uses player palette 0 and player palette 1. So he should have blonde hair and a green shirt. Our monster in this case uses the alien palette, and he uses sub palette 3. If I press OK, we can see that our hero has updated his colors, and now I can place up to 4 monsters on the screen. If I
There's probably a reason for that.
right click, place monster 1, place the alien. Right click down here.
I remember when I was playing around with the Atari development at one point, that they had player, a bullet, and 2 bullets. Can't remember. Anyway, that the resources were even more restricted. So for NES, it looks like you could have more than 4, but I can see why there'd be screen tearing. Let's see what happens here.
Place monster 2 and place an alien. Right click here, place monster 3 and place an alien. Now when I test my game, if I run into an alien, it will restart the level and I'll lose a life. So now we just need to give our player a goal, and the goal is going to be to get to these gray rectangles, which is going to be my exit for the game, for the run.
Okay, one thing he hasn't mentioned was the alien logic. Looks to me like these aliens move randomly. and when they collide with the player dies. Um, so there's probably logic about that somewhere. Uh, so here we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to assume that as red, and we're just going to, for this assignment, place between 1 to 4 aliens in this maze, and not worry about logic for right now. You can change the palettes, but don't worry about the behavior.
Real simple way to add a room that has all the same properties as this is I can go to my map, my overworld map, click on it, hit Control C, move to a different screen, click on it, hit Control V.
All right, so that's also nice that you can copy screens. Work smarter, not harder, right?
Sometimes it's a little bit finicky. If it doesn't paste, try it again. Click on the screen, Control C, click on a new screen, Control V. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to clear all of my monsters by right-clicking.
Okay, so I'd say with this assignment, four to six screens would be fine. Because I think as soon as you create one and you are satisfied with it, you can go to town. Definitely, you can go to town. And if you really want to, go full bang, that's fine. I think as far as just understanding how this all works, for me, between four to six screens would be fine. That would show proficiency in using what's given to you. Um, so create your own maze, create an exit tile, add coins, add aliens up to 4. I don't know yet if that's an arbitrary number, but he's showing 4, so let's assume up to 4. Create 4 to 6 different screens. That should be. There we go. Using nothing more than tile placement and edit one tile. Shouldn't be too bad. And I think probably the bottleneck is going to be, what is your exit tile going to look like? So that's going to be the first research thing, is what is this exit tile going to look like? Number 1. Number 2, how can you change that tile? That's going to be something that you're going to need to figure out on your own. So that's a way to get your feet wet.
And resetting all my monster placements. And just so I can tell that I've come to a different room, I'm going to clear out this middle section. So I'll get...
I would go one step further. I would keep the walls and clear everything out and just make everything look different. Yeah, I would definitely do that. And somehow have it make sense with the previous layout. I think since we're dealing with warp, you're going to go warp from one room to another room. So if we're going to deal with like 4 to 6 tiles, we're not going to go through a hallway from one room to another room. He hasn't covered that. We're dealing with a warp space. So if you want to get around it, possibly consider making a doorway one of these tiles here, or if you can make like a doorway kind of thing on one specific wall, that would restrict you though, but I don't see anything wrong with that. Or if you just want to have a staircase, that's fine. Um, but have it in a way where it makes sense, where it can still be challenging. You can go to town with all this.
My tile number 1, and I'll clear this area out. And I'll go to my collision, and I'll choose null walkable, and I'll 0 that area out.
You can have a lot of fun doing this. If you want to go all the way and just have the walls and, well, let's call them all tiles. 0 out the room and create an entire layout for each of these screens. I can see this easily taking up 3-4 hours. Really exciting stuff if you're into it. Self-satisfaction, right?
Go back to my overworld, go to screen number 1. I need to know where this screen is located on the map. So if I click on overworld and I move my mouse over that screen, my screen is at 3-1, or 3-3, I'm sorry, and I want it to go to 4-3. This is the coordinates of the screen that I want to go to.
Okay. I've stepped on this on both the other projects that I have with Adventure Game Toolkit and with the the D&D Adventure Game Toolkit, and with the SCI is knowing which screen you want to go to. So if you're on the Sierra Game Toolkit, if you go north, you're going to go from screen X to screen Y. If you step in a specific area, you get transported to this screen. Likewise with the D&D toolkit, if you go from left to right, you're exit to this screen, right to left, going over to that screen. Basic stuff. So always know your coordinates. Absolutely, it seems to be a thing for a lot of these toolkits. So that's good.
So I'm going to open up my first screen here, and I want this screen to transition to 4-3. You'll have to look at your map to determine what screen it should jump to.
I think that goes without saying. So that's why I'm thinking probably 4 to 6 screens, just get an idea that you know what you're doing.
I'm going to go to screen info, and you can see it says warp out screen. We said it was 4-3. Depending on where you have your screen, that'll determine what you put here. So we are telling it where to warp out to. Now on this screen, I need to tell it, where do I warp in to? So when it comes to this screen,
with the SCI, you can do this programmatically through their code. You can tell it which room have you warped from or entered from, which one are you coming or warping to. So different ways about it. This is a nice little GUI way of doing it, so you don't have to do it programmatically. I suspect you could do it later on, but for now, learning how to do it quick and easy.
what position does it show up at? Let's pretend I want it to show up right here at 5, 5. I can go to screen info and I can change my warp in screen location to 5, 5. He should show up right here. I'll go back to my first screen. The last thing I need to do to make that work is I need to modify this so that it is not walkable.
All right. If I haven't said it before, I'll say it now. Get yourself a notebook. Write this shit down. This is going to be your Bible. You could do it, through WordPad and all that, etc. Though, but for me, having your game Bible here, yeah, absolutely. Now, say graph paper. Certainly, you could, transport your maps onto here. Work out your maps on your graph paper, and I would go ahead and do that both. But you're definitely going to need something to write this stuff down on. So have your Bible.
But instead is a warp tile. I could do the same thing where I click on this, hit 0, and paint it, or I can right click on that.
And I'll tell you why. You're going to need to document this stuff. So in case you got to go back, make changes here first. So you write your own notes, and in fact, that's going to be part of my exercise too. Is to document everything. So out of all this, I'd say the most points scored would be under documentation. All good programmers document the shit out of everything.
Specific individual tile, modify the attribute, and change it to a warp tile. Now let's just make sure that that warp actually works. So export and test. That'll open the assembler. Press any key. Avoid aliens. And get to the warp. And it does. Takes us to the second screen. Awesome. So that should give you a good start at making a maze game, taking that idea and making some sort of escalating threat, and you'll be able to create a cool little...
Okay. Also good point. Number 4, we have add aliens up to 4. He said escalating, which makes sense to me, so that's going to be part of it. Escalating. So I would say only as a suggestion, say first screen you would have like just a few coins, second screen 1 alien, third screen 2 aliens, third screen 3 aliens, so forth. It doesn't have to be that way, but the whole point is how do you make each level that more challenging? Could it be the design of the maze? Could it be, well, as you can see here, he's not obligated to pick up every single coin. He can leave whenever he wants to. So the number of coins is not an object. So it's going to be score based. We're looking for highest score. So you, basically, what you're looking for here, objectively, or no, subjectively, is this fun and is this challenging? So what I mean by that is if you're going to have 4 aliens screen after screen, you just got to be ready for is this the same thing over and over and over again without any um, without any changes whatsoever? You're going to have to figure out, well, how can I make this challenging for the player that he wants to continue? So the key thing here is escalation, how to escalate. So that's going to be up to you to figure out.
Pac-Man style maze game. If you'd like to continue on with this tutorial and see how this was put together, take a deeper look under the hood. That's what we're going to do in the next part of this tutorial. And then beyond that, we're going to take this and start.
Okay, so we're going to stop right there. So that is just a good way to start this. And so I think what I'm going to do is going to end right there. He gave us all of our building blocks, as it were. And I think through the week, I will make a live stream and create my first NES ROM. Not game, ROM. Because the way I figured, I got so much material to go through, and I haven't got an original idea down yet. And it's good for me to go through everything and let the idea come to me as as I do all this. You never know how ideas come. They can come through a shower and so forth. They can just come at the spring of the moment. But for now, I have my assignment. I know what I'm going to do. And starting, let's say tomorrow, I'm going to go ahead, unaided, and make my own first NES ROM. So this is exciting. I am looking forward to see what this brings. And I think we can stop this, or I think we can stop right now and end this episode, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.
These are 10 things to never say on a first date. Take note. Oh yeah, I believe in reproductive rights too, especially for guys. Have you heard of the men's rights movement? No. Don't order that. You're probably the last person in this room who needs any more carbs tonight. Hey, you want to meet my parents next weekend? You remind me so much of my mom. I'm not racist, but... My favorite author? You probably haven't heard of him. I don't think they teach Kierkegaard in the state schools. Be right back. I just have to do a number 2. Let me tell you all the intricate details about my recent financial troubles. Not counting what's probably going to happen later, how many other guys from Tinder have you slept with? Can I take this call? It's my ex. My favorite type of music? Probably nerdcore.